Hey everybody. So in this week's session, we're going to focus on the first part of a series we call science writing. So this is science writing part one, and our focus is on clear and analytical writing. And there's three major parts that you guys did some reading on, both in the chapter that we've given you from Helen Sword's Stylish Academic Writing, as well as some of the handouts. So the first big topic is jargon and jargonitis, the terrible disease of using too much jargon. Clear and effective prose, number two, and the third area, analytical writing, especially as it compares to summary or writing that's more summative or more summary. So let's look at the first area, jargon and jargonitis. So what I've done is I want to show you an example from a website, and this is coming from a short YouTube video by Mike Console, and I'll put the link up to the video in our suggested resources on Blackboard. But this is Mike Console's material, and Mike Console is a business coach, writing coach for business and professional writing on the West Coast. I'm actually putting his blog in the recommended resources too. He writes a lot of really great things about professional writing and good writing in general. But getting back to this example here, this is an example from a client he worked with, the company Compugen, a pharmaceutical company, and this is a mission statement on their website, so it's meant for a broad audience. So I'm going to read this to you. You probably already looked at this. Compugen is a leading therapeutic product discovery company focused on therapeutic proteins and monoclonal antibodies to address important unmet needs in the fields of immunology and oncology, either for Compugen or its partners. So it's a very long sentence. Look at in the first sentence, a whole list of nouns with some adjectives. The leading therapeutic product discovery company. That all describes one entity. That's really, really long and a big string. That's already confusing right from the bat. Therapeutic proteins, monoclonal antibodies, those are very specific terms that one could probably label as jargon. So this passage suffers a little bit from jargonitis of very specific language. Immunology and oncology might also not be as well known to the public as to people in the medical field. And remember, this is coming from the mission statement on the company's website. So a lot of information that's very unclear and difficult to understand. So Mike Console suggests this rewrite. Compugen makes therapeutic products that boost the human immune system and fight cancer. And I highlighted the verbs here, the active verbs. So it shows you how to get rid of jargon. Often it really behooves us to look at, okay, what's actually going on in a sentence, right? It's about Compugen, the company making something, these products that do certain things. So that needs to be the focus of a short and pithy and succinct mission statement. We'll talk more about active verbs and how to think about verbs as a real tool to spruce up and liven up your writing in next week's sessions, but this gives you already kind of a hint towards that. But again, the focus here is avoiding jargon often means cleaning up our sentence structure and making sure that we use words that everybody can understand. So another example comes from Helen Sword's Stylish Academic Writing, the chapter we've asked you to read for today. And this is from page 116 from one of the boxes. And I'm going to look at my box right here. It's from the book, from the article by Mike Krang on geography. So Sword lists this piece of that article for a good example of stylish academic writing, but also points out another passage in here that's really complicated, which is this one. An examination of this constellation of representation, power, and knowledge seems all the more imperative as the rising hegemony, and I'm tempted to say epistemological monopoly, of Microsoft's PowerPoint reinforces the interchangeability of content within the single representational system. That's very much academese, right? Academic English at its best or worst. So he breaks it up a little bit with the I am tempted to say, that colloquial expression in the middle. But the rest of it is really, really complicated. And if you're if you're like me, I would have to look up, okay, what's hegemony mean? What does epistemological mean? Monopoly sounds familiar, but interchangeability, what does that exactly mean? Why is it representational? So there's a lot of academic kind of jargon in there. And this passage definitely suffers from jargonitis. So I try to improve this a little bit and make this a little clearer. And one way I came up with is to say we must examine, right? Because the sentence, let's go back to it for a second. This is sort of kind of like a thesis statement in this article saying, like, hey, this is what we should do. And I'm assuming this is more than one author, we must examine how images of representation, power, and knowledge affect geographic knowledge, especially in light of Microsoft PowerPoint's dominant role in educational environments. It's a lot shorter and leaves out all these crazy words of hegemony, which hegemony is somebody who's dominant. So the dominant role in education environments, that's how I interpreted it. And I had to do some interpretation here actually, because I didn't read the whole article. I'm not familiar with his work, just based on the passage that Sword shares with us. This might be a possible rewrite to make it a little bit more succinct. But again, the focus is on active language, really accessible sentence structure, clear, somebody who's doing something to something, and that gets rid of the jargon, right? To really actually focus on what's going on here, what's the story I want to tell.